Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Folks and Friends, a podcast by Folks Finance. Here, we invite the brightest builders, creators, and thought leaders to talk blockchain, tech, finance, and everything in between. I'm your host, Ibu Karel. Let's learn something together. Assets discussed on Folks and Friends may be held by participants of the podcast. This podcast is purely educational and not intended as advice. Enjoy the episode.
All right, everybody. I'm pretty happy with the amount of audience we have, so let's get it going. Welcome, everybody, to Folks and Friends, episode 4. Super excited to be here. My name is Ibu Karel, head of partnerships at Folks Finance. Of course, I'm here with my co-host, Benedetto Biondi, CEO of Folks Finance, and our guest today is Taylan Pince, CEO of Pera Wallet. First, Ben, how are you doing?
Hey, Ibu. I'm doing great. Just flew back from Bucharest. I was speaking on a conference there yesterday, and I'm just packing my stuff because tomorrow I'm flying to San Francisco. So it's a busy day, but all is great.
How's the crypto community in Bucharest?
Well, this was actually the first conference ever done in Romania, and it was pretty vibrant. Yeah. I liked the community. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Met new connection. I was working with my Algorand Folks Finance hoodie as always, and many people stopped me, with the interest in Algorand, and they were bullish to talk about it.
What was the panel? You said you got a panel there?
Actually, I didn't know it, but I had a panel as a moderator. It was the real world tokenized asset. Another one, I was a speaker and was investing in DeFi. And very suddenly, I appeared also in the conclusion keynote. So I was everywhere there, but it was fun. I think, Taylan, we can start having you with just some general introduction about you and Pera and the team for those who doesn't know you. I know you are very famous in the ecosystem, but still the audience might be not very new, not very old to Algorand. So if you want to introduce yourself, and the team will be for sure really good.
Absolutely. I'll jump right in. So my name's Taylan. I'm the CEO at Pera Wallet. Pera is the definitely the most popular and most used wallet on the Algorand ecosystem. We've been around for a while. We've started this journey as the official Algorand wallet and then switched to the Pera brand and essentially a separate operational structure early last year. And we've been rapidly expanding our feature set and really focusing on community-driven features for the last 14, 15 months now. And it's been an incredible journey. Even though the markets have been slow, we definitely have been going quite fast. And we've added many requested features. And, while, of course, our primary focus is on safety and security of our users while maintaining our procedures and security audits in place. So our team is mostly hails from Europe with a few people in the US. We are just around 35 people, and we do pretty much everything in-house. So we do end-to-end design and development of the product, and we try to rely on only internal resources, again, mostly for safety and security. We don't use any third-party libraries, for instance. We don't rely on any other outside management in terms of our server infrastructure and DevOps. So it's a lot of internal work, a lot of internal processes. But despite that, we've been delivering, I think, on many features. Most recently, we've launched our web wallet, Pera Web, which has been quite successful. And more closely today, we've launched Pera On-Ramp, which is comparative on-ramp solution that any dApp in the ecosystem can integrate for easy purchase fiat to crypto purchases using several different providers. And we'll be adding more providers to that list over the next few weeks. And very soon we're launching our NFT aggregator within a matter of days, actually. So we've been heavily working on that. We're going to be working with Rand Gallery to offer some really exciting solutions embedded within the app, as well as Algo's NFT and Exa and Shuffle as well. So we've been hard at work on all of this and more, so we can get to talk more about it as we get into it.
Wow, that's fantastic, Taylan. I think the work that Pera team is doing, it's immense, helpful for Algorand, especially at that time. I think we have many things in common, like with the philosophy of the team of folks and Pera. In fact, we often collaborate, and that's this way of building a good feature, useful feature for the community, for the product. It's fantastic, and I simply love the newer ramp. I think it's the best on ramp I've ever seen in the entire industry. So kudos on that, and to the team, you are doing a great work.
Thank you. Always happy to hear that. And thank you for integrating it so quickly and launching it.
I think you were impressed, no?
I think so, yeah. You guys were right there.
Taylan, you seem to have your finger on the pulse of what the Algorand community is looking for. You took Pera from a mobile app to a web app as well. You guys built an in-app browser for the mobile app, which allows people to access DeFi from that app, which is super useful. You have the Pera Explorer now, which people can go and see their transaction history. And now you're telling us, of course, you already had things like swapping, on-ramping, you just added, and now you're coming out with the NFT aggregator. I would love to hear more about that, but I want to ask first, what is your strategy to keep up to date with what the community is looking for, and how do you determine, what's most important for your team to build next?
Mostly lurking on Discord, probably the biggest strategy that I have. So yeah, I'm a big believer in listening to the people who are using your app. So that's what I've been doing for the last year and change. I'd never used Discord, confession here, before starting at Pera. So it was a bit of a, learning journey for me. But, I think I took on fairly quickly. We built a really nice community on our Discord. There are some incredible people who are, very active and very adamant about features. I think we've converted a lot of very angry users into big Pera champions because we listened to them and we implemented what they were asking for. And if we are not going to implement, then we tell them why and what our thinking is, right? So we're very transparent. So we really try to just live by our values. And it's not just me, of course, it's the whole team. So we actually have a Discord rotation, what we call the Community Ambassador Program within Pera, where every day one person is assigned to be on Discord that day, for instance, and also monitor Twitter and Reddit. Not because we need them to, we have our community team to do that, to respond, but this is just to get the team exposed to what the community wants, what they're thinking, what's important to them, because it's very dangerous to, develop and design things in a silo. We need to understand how people use our applications to build them well. So I think that's what really, puts us apart.
Yeah, I'm strongly agree with you, Taylan. This is definitely one of the key to success for founders, for a startup in crypto. It's definitely listen to the community, because the community that is using our products in our industry definitely is feeling part of the product itself. So that's the beauty, and we do the same at Folks. We don't have that structured, rotating team into community, let's say managers, but it's a cool idea. Actually, I may take some notes about that.
Yeah, of course, take it. I mean, it works really well, and when people are in there, of course, they're more driven as well. They really like it, right? Like when someone says, "Hey, this feature is really cool," and the person who actually designed or developed that is there, I mean, they feel good about it. So that's great as well.
Yeah, it definitely is something magical about crypto where the community can so easily connect with the team. Can you tell us a bit about the NFT aggregator and, what the structure of that will be? What can we look forward to there?
Yeah, for sure. The first step is really just browsing NFT collections in an aggregated manner within mobile. So that's coming very soon. It looks great, and we've been testing it. So we're going to be launching that very soon. It's going to be a new section under Discover, and you'll get to see, all the collections across the four Rand Gallery, Shuffle, Exa, and Algo NFT. All of them are going to be right in there. So you'll get to browse those. And then the second phase of this that'll come a few weeks later will be the ability to purchase NFTs as well. So you will be able to just natively purchase within the app without even having to use the in-app browser. And that's coming next. So so we're working hard to get that to the finish line.
I have an interesting question here because Taylan, you in Pera integrates many even services from other third parties. How do you make sure that all of these are working well? Like, what's your let's say your strategy? Because it's difficult coordination. Like, let's say that you integrate something from an NFT marketplace, and this goes down, and you're not then notified. Like your app suffer. What's the strategy, or what's the solution? Let's say.
Right. Yeah. Good question. A lot of it is, of course, more kind of redundant system design. So, we're very big on redundant systems. So we would always, ensure that the core app features are always functional, even if all the API connections and integrations fail. So that's a big part of how we design our systems. Another thing that we've been doing is, of course, the app never talks directly to any third party. The app always goes through our systems, and our systems and our servers talk to other third parties. So we never integrate the app directly. And that served us really well because, when you have an issue with the app or on a service that the app relies on, to update the app is at least a few days, just going through a review and everything. I can get stuck, all of those things. So, we never have the app to do things directly. They just talk to our APIs, and then our APIs kind of in turn either cache or get data from third parties whenever needed. So we have a lot of caching lanes. We have a lot of our internal APIs.
Thank you, Taylan. I all the time when I talk to you and to the team, I always think that we are very lucky to have you on Algorand because the expertise and the knowledge that you bring in the ecosystem is great. So, thank you.
Thank you. That's really kind.
I have to ask, because I'm sure a lot of the community will be wondering about it. How has Pera been, impacted, or what results have you seen of the recent attack on my Algo? From the Pera perspective,
Yeah, no, good question. I mean, it's been a wild few weeks, as I mentioned. Not because we really suffered anything from the scale, which is, I mean, huge kudos to our DevOps and API team. Our infrastructure just scaled automatically with the onslaught of users. My first comment was, this is the worst way of acquiring new users, and it is the worst way because people are essentially just running away from a disaster, and that's really sad to see. There was, of course, a lot of funds lost, and it's absolutely horrible. As I think everyone knows, we rushed the rekey feature to at least give people something to secure their accounts with. It wasn't great. We don't like shipping half-baked features, but we had to. So I think, asked the team on a Friday, and on Monday we launched it for iOS and web. So that was, again, kudos to the team. They just delivered so quickly on that. Now we're doing a lot of iterations of rekey to make sure, it actually works properly in all scenarios. So that's coming soon as well with a few updates. And yeah, I mean, other than that, we probably, I think based on the numbers from the last few weeks, I don't have exact numbers, but we pretty much increased our user base by 50%, just after the MyAlgo incident. So, a significant portion of those users moved to Pera Web, and then, another portion kind of waited for the mobile app updates, and then with the Android update a few weeks ago, then we've seen the rest, move over and rekey. So that's kind of where we are right now. Scale wise, we're okay. We haven't had any hiccups, thankfully. And of course, the biggest thing that was harder to scale was the customer support, because we were just, getting hundreds of tickets a day across various support channels, and we're still, working our way through that.
Just to give context for anyone who's new to the ecosystem or may not know, what we are referring to is another wallet provider, MyAlgo, suffered an exploit about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And, Taylan, as CEO of Pera Wallet, is a competitor to MyAlgo, also kind of works in the same ecosystem as them. So, like you said, they've seen some significant growth of usage of Pera Wallet. We found out yesterday that it could have been something to do with the passwords. I apologize if you don't want to, comment too heavily on it, but as someone who's very involved in wallet infrastructure, how can something like this be a vulnerability and not be noticed beforehand by either their team or a hacker? I mean, why does this happen now?
So yeah, good question. Obviously, we don't have a ton of details. I believe, MyAlgo kind of tweeted out kind of a summary report yesterday. To be honest, when this first started, I remember, we immediately got on it, and as a small group, we started discussing it. We actually had a Twitter space on this a few weeks ago, and my first thinking was, and I believe, at the time John was saying the same thing, this is most likely phishing, because it was such a small number of accounts that it was very unlikely to be an exploit. But then a week later, we saw the automation of the attack, and that kind of sealed the deal. It's an exploit, and somehow, this attacker has access to the private keys. So when that happened, there could have been only a handful of options, right? A lot of people were focusing on the encryption. I said this on Twitter a few times, and I said this on Discord a few times. It's very unlikely for the encryption algorithm to be cracked, because, we knew just looking at the MyAlgo source code that, just the one that you load up in the browser, that the encryption algorithm, there were no problems with it. So it was very unlikely to be a problem. What we zeroed in on was the CDN or DNS injection. So, for those that are not familiar, any web wallet, for web wallets in general, the surface, the attack surface is larger than, let's say, a mobile wallet, or a browser extension. The reason being, a browser extension or a mobile wallet gets packaged up, and once it's packaged up, it's essentially like a binary that no one can really modify. They can't really easily inject code into it. So once this gets loaded up to the App Store or the Chrome plugin database, you can't really modify it after the fact. You have to upload a new version to modify it. So by definition, there's a gateway there that you can control. Now, can someone still inject malicious code and upload it and get it approved and reviewed and published? Of course, it's possible, but it's much harder. Whereas with a DNS injection, what happens is you can change the actual, essentially the DNS or the CDN loads the JavaScript that you load every time you go to the web wallet, right? So every time you go there, a fresh version is loaded up. This could be the new version, whatever. But if you can capture this at the CDN level, which is in this case Cloudflare, you can actually change that code slightly to inject some code into it, and then all the new users that come to the wallet load up your slightly modified version, with which you can do key logging, so you can capture the passphrase, the password or passphrase that's used. You can also capture the encrypted private keys. You can get all of them. You can even get them decrypted if you want. You can log them to a third-party server, whatever you want to do. And you have access to everything pretty much. So from our understanding and our initial guess, this is exactly what happened. I mean, who knows what the internal procedures were? This really comes down to internal process. Who has access to Cloudflare? Do they have 2FA enabled? Do they share that password with anyone? Stuff like that becomes absolutely critical in a case like this. Another thing to think about is who has access to deploying code. A lot of these, smaller teams use automation for deployment, of course. And sometimes deployments can be triggered by a simple code push. So anyone who has access to the repo can push some code and deploy it. And, it might be reviewed, it might not be reviewed. It depends on internal rules. I assume we'll learn more about these as the case unfolds, but it's a process issue. It's not a technology issue, it's a process issue. You have to have very strict policies in place to prevent unauthorized deployments, unauthorized changes to the CDN, to the DNS. We've had these from day one, but obviously Algo did not. I don't blame them for it because I know they were in a tough position. They're a small team, they're underfunded, they don't have the resources to do this properly, and things went down. This is why it's so critical for wallet providers to be really well defended in terms of internal processes, in terms of funding, in terms of being supported by the community. We can't have rogue wallets out there that are just maintained by a couple of guys in a basement. It's just that is not a good way of going about things.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to unpack there. I want to ask two things. First is a lot of the community was affected by this. There's been talks of a recovery fund or some type of ecosystem bailout. Some people are into that. Some people are not into that idea. How do you consider the community, being affected by this, being crippled by this? What are your considerations on how to make sure the community, isn't hung out to dry, by this situation? Do you have any considerations on that topic? I know it's a bit it's cloudy.
Yeah, it's a very political topic, of course. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever I say doesn't really matter, right? It's just, of course, the community, I wish the community could be made whole. I wish the people who were exploited, could be somehow, at least to an extent, made whole, right? With some level of funding. What is the right way of going about this? I mean, I think ideally in a situation like this, the community should decide in the same sense, right? I mean, I wish we could have a more decentralized governance setup where this could just be put to vote, but in a truly decentralized manner, not even because when you talk about governance, then I don't want to get into too much into governance because I know it's a hot topic and everyone has their own opinions, but it's even the way the governance questions are worded change the way the votes are are sent out and where the vote leans. So it's just so hard to get it right, and I don't think anyone has the right answer, and I don't think anyone has done it in any chain so far. But this is the perfect case for the community to decide, whether this should be done or not. I think, and yeah, I don't know if there will be a path forward on how to, make people whole on this and maybe recover some of the lost assets. But I hope there will be. That's the only thing I can say.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Although I think that even the process for funding it's really complex. how you are gonna say, yes, this was an accurate wallet, this one wasn't, it's very tricky. I think we still need time. We need to arrive to the end, then reason on that properly, and we will find a solution as a community.
I think,
Yeah, go ahead.
one thing I'll say is, some people might not even remember now, but, a year ago, Tinyman, essentially our sister company under Hippo, went through something very similar, right? And we made the decision, like, we didn't look out anywhere else, right? Like, we said, okay, this is our responsibility. This was our smart contract that we implemented, and we made a mistake, and we couldn't catch, this issue in time, despite the audits, despite all the defenses that we have put in place. So we're going to make people whole. And I think, without that healing process, I don't know where we would have been here today, right? Like, where would the community be? I think, at least to an extent, there should be a path forward for people. There should be a sense that there's a community and there is a way out of these disasters. We don't just say, oh, whatever it happened, and it's nobody's fault, right?
Yeah. But we need to also wait until there's, concrete answers and things like come into the light. Let's change the subject a bit. You kind of mentioned it before, but like, what's the roadmap looking like for Pera, going through the rest of this year? You mentioned the NFT aggregator, but beyond that, what can we look forward to? Maybe we can talk a little bit about your vision for Pera going forward.
Yeah, for sure. So a big part of Q2 is going to be focused on completely revamping our onboarding. We really want to make it incredibly easy to onboard to Pera Mobile, especially. So we'll be working on that. And another one that we're working on is NF domains integration. We want to offer super easy NF domains purchases within the app. We talked about this with the NF domains team probably almost 9 months ago. They got everything ready and we just couldn't move forward. And it's completely on us for not still offering this. So I really want to get that to the finish line. We're almost there. Another one that we're going to be looking at is more integrations. So we're looking at Vendable and Nimble in terms of integration solutions. And, as they progress on their product roadmap, we're going to be natively integrating them. I'm really excited about those. And then one other thing that we'll be working on is the portfolio solution. So essentially what we're calling Pera Portfolio, which is going to be a kind of an integrated positions within Pera. So you can see your Folks Finance positions, you can see your Tinyman pools, you can see your Algo 5 volt data, all of that are your governance contributions all in one place. So we've been working on that. It's looking really great, and that's going to be coming soon as well. So yeah, a lot happening. We are prioritizing multi-sig right now. There's significant demand from the community. We think, we've come up with a really nice on-chain technical solution that will work for any wallet. So any other wallet provider can also use it. So we're going to be preparing that, implementing that, and launching it. We're not going to rush it. It's a critical feature. So it's going to take us a bit of time to properly design and implement it, but we'll get there, and we're going to get that out there.
There's a lot that you're definitely working on. Super cool. I want to touch upon the onboarding. How do you plan to upgrade or change your onboarding process? What's the goal there? Is it to make things, smoother? Is it to make things more secure? How do you think you're going to change that?
Sure, yeah. So the current onboarding is very onerous, and we're seeing a significant drop off in terms of, the funnel of people not even, getting to the end of the process in a lot of the cases. So we definitely want to fix that. We think that, for instance, a good example is like asking the user to repeat the 25-word keys and like quizzing on them before even the account is created or any funds are put into the account is just completely pointless. So we're going to be removing a lot. Essentially, we're going to be simplifying it. I'm calling it the 3-step onboarding. You essentially get in there, you name your account, you fund your account, and then you decide what you want to do with that account. And of course, with the what we're calling the ASB, the Algorand Secure Backup implementation in there as well, so you can securely back up your account. You don't have to memorize your keys. You're not going to quiz you on them. You can, encrypt your private keys. You can securely store them somewhere, and then you can move on and you can fund it. In terms of the funding step for the initial transaction level funding, so you get some Algo in there. We're going to be integrating Apple Pay, Google Pay, so you can just do double tap to fund, and you're off the races into our Discover section where you can browse and do NFTs or DeFi or whatever you want to do. But let's get you ready for that first, and then push you into the ecosystem from there.
How does the non-invasive onboarding work? How do you ensure that someone will not lose their key, their 25 words, if you're not showing it to them up front?
So I think a lot of people don't know this, but actually your Algorand account is not created on chain until you have a transaction on it. So let's say you create an account, you memorize your 25-word key, and you never do anything with that account doesn't exist. So it's not on chain. Because there are no transactions to record it. So we think, semantically as well as from a usability perspective, it is truly pointless for someone to memorize or write down 25 words for an account that doesn't exist. So what we think matters is funding that account. So you have some Algo in that account, and then it becomes valuable. And then the other, philosophically wrong, absolutely wrong thing that we see from a usability perspective is seeing or even knowing about your 25-word private key. Those 25 words should never be visible. They should never be on screen. You should never see them. You should not write them down. Writing down something is not a good way of securing it. You should secure it digitally, encrypted. So that's the stance we're taking, and that's what ASB is going to be doing. Essentially, you will get to secure all of your accounts, or one by one if you want, but you won't have to see your 25-word key. You should just secure it, encrypt it in a digital storage that you trust. But even if someone gets access to those encrypted keys, they can't do anything with it, because we're going to be putting another safeguard in front that actually lets you decrypt those keys. And that's the only thing that you need to either memorize, or you can write it down, or you can store it. But the nice thing is, if anyone gets access to those that encryption layer, that decryption layer passphrase, it doesn't matter, because on its own, it doesn't do anything. So by splitting essentially the security into two pieces, you immediately get an inherent sense of security. If someone just sees your passphrases right now, they have access to all of your funds, right? To us, this makes absolutely no sense. So that's why our stance is you should never see them. Nobody should see them. You should just store them encrypted at all times.
So if they're encrypted and it's, what is it secured by? Like a password, biometrics? What if someone gets in?
That's the nice thing. So, they could be secured by anything. So the future that we see in Pera and in crypto in general is your encrypted passphrase backup is going to be secured by multiple layers. So it really depends on how paranoid you are, right? So you could say, I want to encrypt it with my, ID verification plus my biometrics plus a password. Or you could say, I only want to encrypt it with a 12-word passphrase that I memorize. Or you could say, I want to encrypt it with social encryption, and I want, whenever I import this into a new wallet, I need a social, validation from 3 friends that I name, and only they can send the confirmation to unlock, whatever. So, the nice thing is this opens it up to multiple different providers or solutions to integrate and provide different levels of security, and the user can pick which ones they want to use.
I mean, I definitely think it's sounds like a really great upgrade to the UX of, you know, holding a wallet. It's definitely a huge barrier to entry to be memorizing those mnemonic phrases. Excuse me. Let's move on. Ben, do you have anything you want to say about this?
No, I mean, I agree with that, especially what ultimately Taylan said, that the future of industry cannot rely on a system where user, when onboarding in a wallet, has to store the seed phrase. That's way too limiting. But what he just described, it's very interesting. I was working on that. It's fantastic, honestly. And that is one of the things that we really need. And I always say that we really need for mass adoption. Together with other things, that's what is going to change this industry.
I got a question for you, Taylan, which is about the new fork or like sister chain, clone chain of Algorand that's being built by the Reach team called Voy. You probably have heard of it, I'm sure. We don't know almost any details about how, at least publicly, I can say I don't know much. Maybe you've heard something privately, but does Pera intend to support Voy, you know, upon its launch? You know, will people be able to use Pera being the main Algorand wallet and Voy being a fork of Algorand? Like, is this something that you're thinking about, or is it something you don't even want to talk about?
I mean, to be honest, I don't know a lot about it. I had a chat with Chris, you know, very briefly about it. I know that they forked Pera, and they are actually building a fork of Pera as well, for Voy, which of course is totally fine because Pera is open source. That's why it's there. And you know, I guess we'll see what happens. I don't know. You know, the Algorand ecosystem is quite small right now, and you know, I don't know if this will generate more growth, or if it will, you know, just divide the ecosystem. Who knows? We'll see. But you know, we've seen similar things happen on other chains, and you know, sometimes more innovation and more competition, in a sense, is not such a bad thing. So it could go to good places as well. You know, we're a mainstream wallet. We don't really it's not in our strategy to support every chain or fork that comes out. But if Voy, you know, grows up to a significant, you know, consumer base, of course we would look at that and we would see that as an option. But it's not something that we would from day one start supporting. I don't think it would make sense for us. So that's kind of, you know, where we are at. I don't know a lot about it. I'm kind of keeping an eye on it, and I'm curious to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, I don't think many people know much about it, but I just wanted to ask because we had you here. But let's move on to a little bit of founder talk, a little bit of CEO chat, and I wanted to ask you how you hire for a startup. You know, you were hiring for Pera, of course, Hippo, Tinyman. I don't know if you did the hiring over there. But especially for the first, you know, 20 people, what do you look for in the individual as you're considering hiring somebody?
I think we primarily look for communication skills, to be honest. You know, our stance has always been, you know, the kind of hard skills can be learned, but the soft skills, so to speak, are much harder to teach or to learn. So we really look for being a remote team, being an asynchronous team. You know, communication and teamwork is at the core of everything that we do. It's also really important to us, you know, since the early days of Hippo, that it's a fun place to work at. You know, that we don't believe in kind of like, internal intensity, so to speak. Like, we want it to be a calm place. We want it to be an easy place. And we want it to be a place where people feel safe at work. So that's really important to us. So we really look for those character traits where, is someone a good team player? Is someone, honest and humble and just focuses on the delivering quality work. And that usually works out pretty well. And we have a lot of, internal kind of, teaching and internal pairing to grow people into their careers. And, that works really well. We also have an internship program that's open now for applications that we run every year. Most of the time we hire through our internship program because we found that's the best way to A, find talent, B, kind of grow talent within the team with our understanding of how product development should be done. So that's a big part of our strategy as well.
Do you think that in this industry, in the crypto industry, that it's maybe more important than other industries to bring people in who may not have all the experience? Like you said, you can teach those hard skills, but if they have some ingredients, that you could see being useful, that might be someone you look for over someone who's like a technical wizard in one specific thing?
For me, it depends on the role. I can go first, and then you can go with your opinion, Taylan. So Ibu was asking like if the skills that you mentioned are more important than actually someone very technically skilled. So as for me, it depends on the role. Definitely, there are roles where being even a Web3 native is crucial, and on other roles where you maybe can learn, let's say, for example, I don't know, here Taylan can correct me since he's much more expert, but a good UI UX designer can probably learn how to adapt this to Web3 easier than how a developer, let's say obviously a blockchain developer, that's more skilled from the very beginning compared to a Web2 in that sense. Can a Web2 developer, it takes more time to learn the entire framework, but maybe a designer, it's easier. So in that sense, probably I would close an eye, but I don't know, Taylan, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. One thing that I'll add is in crypto, we found people who are already familiar with crypto. It might not be Algorand specifically, but in general, crypto have a much easier onboarding. So that's also one thing that we're looking for now. That's changed, since before. So we definitely look for, some level of crypto familiarity is really helpful.
Yeah, there's so many questions I could ask you. How do you make connections for fundraising? You've raised funds for a few companies. Where do you usually find those investors? Is it in person at a conference? Is it, you just happen to run into them somewhere? Do you do cold calls, or you get your team to reach out?
I think Ben should
actually do. Ben, what do you think, Ben?
I'm having a little bit of trouble because you are mixing on each other on my audio end, but I get the question. So for me, that's a very difficult question by this time of the history in crypto. Like when we did the first fundraise was very different, and it was my first fundraise in general. My technique was I didn't have any. It was simply talking with investors, until we defined the final deal, and I was just collecting interest. And probably because we were kind of the hot chick of the club, I mean, a lot of investors were interested to talk with us and having the opportunity to invest, because obviously it was a seed round, so low valuation, and it was also bull market. So the strategy overall, I think that was always talk, get more interest, and it was spreading pretty fast. And these allowed us to reach always higher level of, let's say, reputation of VCs. And that was coming by their own. We never did any outreach, fortunately. Now it's different. The time is bearish. Everyone is suffering from what is happening, even in traditional banks. Like VCs, they don't hold everything in crypto, so they have also a lot of exposure to banks, and that's tricky. Like I'm holding up on having a follow-up on the fundraise from the very beginning of this bear market. Indeed, with folks, like we were able to build a product, to scale it, and now we still have a very large mission. So my strategy now is what I'm doing, because we just started, is we did this. We were good in doing what we promised, and we achieved it in a great way, even faster than expected. And now we want to scale up, and we have this mission. So that's my way now. And on the like the personal relationship that holds with investor, I think that in Web3 it's very difficult to have close connection, like even in real life with investor. Like I have calls with Asia, with Australia, with America. So you must be good to try to make this connection on a video call. Even when I go to conferences, it might happen to meet someone new, but really on the conference time, you don't have time to discuss deal. So anyway, you follow up on a video call.
It's just a lot of, trying and trying again. You keep going at it.
Yeah, and I think also one thing, I got cut off before because of the connection. I think I'm fine now. But so I think one thing that I've noticed is, fundraising. A lot of people think of fundraising as kind of a sprint, whereas it is really just a continuous activity. Like you need to really work at it nonstop if you're running, a funded startup, until you reach some level of financial sustainability. So yeah, so it is a critical task for the executive team to just continuously, work at it.
How does Pera plan to reach financial sustainability, independent of any type of funding?
So yeah, a big part of our work on that side has been, in the works for a bit, and it's now bearing fruit. So, a lot of it, of course, depends on convenience fees and referral fees, based on our integrations. So, for swaps, for instance, we have convenience fees. That was our first real revenue generator. Pretty much everything that I mentioned around, everything pretty much except on-ramp brings in a level of revenue to Pera. Our idea is, we keep the convenience fees as low as possible, but we hopefully, as the ecosystem scales, we see those revenues scale as well. So it's a fairly, standard strategy. And we don't need huge scale to reach that. Like even based on our projections, even with fairly small growth within this year, we can reach financial sustainability. We just need to establish all of these revenue streams. So NFT aggregator is one, in terms of being able to purchase NFTs from within Pera. NF domains purchase is another one. And whenever we can, we're making deals where we can establish revenue streams without having impact on the end user price. So, wherever we can make a direct referral arrangement with the provider, that's what we try to do.
Okay. So I'm really glad to hear that you guys are close to reaching that point. That's really amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's get to some community questions real quick. If anyone in the audience would like to come up and ask a question, please feel free. We got about 5 minutes left. But here's a community question from Shaper of Entropy, which is for you, Taylan. Do you personally participate in Algorand consensus?
In governance? Yes. Yep, I do. Pera does as well. And yeah, we do. I mean, it's pretty much a no-brainer.
I think they might mean like the consensus of the protocol, like staking on a node.
Oh no. We've never done that. I don't think so. Yeah, we were never node runners. So yeah, no plans to do so, to be honest. It's just, there's so much work to be done on our infrastructure continuously that, that's a layer of complexity that we don't want to be involved in at the moment.
His other question is, how do you think Algorand could increase the number of accounts participating in consensus, in which it would improve network decentralization?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I believe, they had the incentive program for a while, which I think is, I think it's sunset now. I'm not sure, but, incentive programs help. I think as far as, the scale of the chain goes, I believe, our current consensus participation, it's not bad, but of course it could always be better. So I would hope that, make it more accessible, make it easier to be run, less technical, or at least having, reliable services available to run it, just making it a no-brainer for people to just run those with the proper incentives in place, of course. Should make it fairly easy. Like if you want people to participate in anything, you just got to make it a very clear value prop, right? Make it easy, make it convenient, make it a clear value prop. I think, that's what I would say. Like, it's not specific to consensus, but I know it will work in that case.
John Woods said that one-click participation should be coming this year. So, that should probably help as well.
That will definitely help. Yeah. In that case, maybe I'll be participating too.
I got a question from Zan NFT1. This can actually go to both of you guys. I'm going to throw it to Benedetto first. Do you think my Algo will come again? I guess they mean, come back from this, rise again.
Well, I think it really depends on the way it will be managed and reorganized. There were previously in the Web3 history similar situation where company, even think of Binance was hacked and almost down, but they repaid everything and they get back all the users' trust in even more. So we will see. It's obviously depends on. We don't know all the background there, right? We don't know what's going on, but I hope they will. Anyway, Rand Gallery was one of the very early supporter of Algorand.
You mean Red Labs?
Sorry, Rand Labs. My bad. So it would be a pity to lose them.
Yeah, they were definitely an early supporter. Yeah, Taylan, go ahead.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I don't think there's any reason why they wouldn't come back from this, but I'll just reiterate what I said before. If that's happening, we need to ensure, and the foundation needs to ensure, that they're really well funded, that they're well taken care of, that they have a strong team, that the proper processes are in place, right? I think that's the critical piece. Otherwise, there's no reason why with the strong leadership and strong communication around those, they wouldn't come back and continue supporting this community.
Yeah, and I know they were working on C3. They have different products beside MyAlgo, which is, it's good for them. When they do return, when they figured this all out, they can come back and work on something. We are at the end of the show. It's been a really great conversation. Really happy to have you here, Taylan, with us. Is there anything you'd like to share, closing remarks, or something that I may have missed before we wrap it up?
No, it was great. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure as usual. I know it feels like it's a bit of, dark times nowadays, but, I think we have a lot to look forward to. I think, I really like this community. I love the chain, but specifically the people who are, building on it, like Benedetto, like Fox Finance, and many others. So, I think we just need to come together, keep on building, and it's going to go to places. I really believe that.
And we love you, Taylan. Thanks for being with us. I think it's the second time, or I was with you in another space. I don't remember, but it's always a pleasure to work together. And I am more than sure that we will raise up again.
Yes, sirs. Yes, we will. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Taylan. Really interesting to hear your perspective on things. Love the bullishness and the positivity. Wise words of advice. And thank you to the whole audience for being here. Of course, Benedetto, thank you for being here as well, and weighing in on these conversations every week. If you missed any of the episode, you can listen to it on all platforms. It will be up later this week: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, and YouTube. So go check those out. Follow the pod there, and keep your eyes on the Folks Finance social channels for any more announcements we might have. Governance period is coming up soon. We have a vote live right now for how to distribute the liquid governance revenue from governance period 5. So if you are using liquid governance this period, go over to folks.finance, check out that vote, cast your vote. We have the XGov program coming next quarter, so keep your eyes out for all types of information about these upgraded systems that should be coming to Folks Finance. And I guess if you use Pera Wallet with Folks Finance, then by indirect correlation, Pera Wallet too. So keep your eyes out. Follow Benedetto on Twitter, follow Taylan, follow Pera Wallet, follow Folks Finance, and we will see you all next week. Thank you all for being here. Love you all. Bye.
Thank you, Ibu. Bye.
Bye.